Hello there, survivors. Welcome back to another step-by-step build tutorial in ARK Survival Ascended. This time for the garage base build, turning it into a full crane, which is definitely a very unique way to live and use as a base. Maybe not the most practical, but it definitely will look very cool in your base. So obviously you're gonna need the Bob Tall Tales spec for this one, because you need the garage as well as the wasteland structures, some of the scaffolding structures as well. And this base will have the garage itself, a little storage shed to the back, as well as a very unique house in the top of the crane, and even a cool hidden greenhouse in the counterweight up there. And then you also have the optional floating shipping container that you can hang from the crane to expand the base even more. As always, if you enjoy these build tutorials and you want to see more, make sure you like the video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and then let's get into the build. Well, normally I would say we start with the foundation, but in this case, of course, we start with the garage itself. So yeah, you want to find yourself a spot in your base where you want to place down the garage, or of course, if you're building this as a base, you can just place it down wherever. You want it a little bit above the ground, doesn't really matter too much how high, so you can just kind of see what your landscape is like, and then we should be able to place it. Now, here at the back of the garage, we want to add 3 foundations like so, and we're going to do the same on the other side and then fill in between. This is going to be the little storage shed at the back, just to give you a little bit of storage right behind where you can craft your cars. Just an extra little bit of convenience, and it will help us with the support of the counterweight that we will have at the top of the garage. And then here at the front, we're going to take it out by 9 in total. So 9 foundations just like this. And then of course the exact same thing here on the other edge, taking it out by 9 in total. And then of course we can start filling this one in as well. Again, this is mostly so that we will have foundation support for everything that we are going to be building above the structure. But yeah, we'll need this little bit. And then here, just to kind of round it off, you might want to add some triangle foundations. You can make this bigger if you want to, but I would at least kind of do it like this, just to kind of round off this platform a bit. And then depending on where you want to be able to drive off, you might want to add a few of these to kind of, you know, create like a driveway up and on to the platform so that your car can easily get to the garage. And here on the platform, we kind of want to keep it easy. So all we're going to do is just add a little railing around it. Again, if you would have maybe options to also drive the other way, you can of course add ramps to both sides to create more ways to drive on and off your platform, and you can make the platform bigger depending on what your base layout looks like. But this is the well, minimum size that we need just to have foundation support for the crane that we will have on top. And you can decide whether you want to have railings all the way around like this. But that should be the start, and then we can at least give the whole platform here the wasteland skins. If you like that look, you can of course also keep the stone if you prefer that. I'll leave it up to you, but just to blend it in with the base garage structure, I'm gonna change it all to the wasteland skins. So yeah, both the railings and the foundations we're going to change. So yeah, let's go all the way around and change it all. And before we get started on the whole build on top of the garage and the crane itself, I think it's nice to work on the garage first and the little storage shed that we'll have behind it, just so that we have something that looks a little nicer here as well. So we'll start with a pillar on the corner, like so, both corners of course. And then here we will want to add in the walls. I like to randomize the orientations of the walls, so it's easier when you place the skins down to get a nice look all the way around. So just randomly place some, and then actually 2 of these we're going to make into some windows. So let's make sure that we do keep the randomization going on, and we'll have 2 windows here at this side. Then here on the side we can just kind of keep it going like normal. So again, we kind of just going for some random shapes of placement so that when the skins are placed, it's not all the same texture. I have found that's the best way to make the wasteland structures look a little bit nicer, because of course they have a very distinct and unique look to them, and they look great. The detail on them separate looks great, but combined can get a little bit busy, and I found out this is the best way to kind of blend it in a little bit more. So we want to create these shapes, and then we'll actually take out our sloped walls, and then we'll go for a shape like this, filling it in. Again, still flipping them randomly, because that will look a lot nicer once the skins are actually applied as well. So we'll just go all the way around like so, making sure that we've got this little shed placed in. And then here in the corner, we actually just need one of these quarterstone ceilings, but what I prefer to do is add 2 of them, because then we can make it into a little like design, like this is a shelf or something. Just looks a little bit nicer. And why we do this is so that we can have a separate snap point here for the roof that overhangs on the outside by half a roof. So yeah, it just looks a little bit nicer this way. And then we want to add in these roofs like so. Of course, it overlaps a little bit into the garage. I'm not quite sure if that's possible in official. You can, of course, also make the shed a little bit smaller in that case, or just not have a roof on it, or just avoid it. But for me, this worked fine, so we're just going to go ahead with it, because it's not really the most important part of the build. Obviously, the big crane itself is the main attraction, so we just want to keep it simple here. On this side, we're going to fill in it like so. Then we want to take out the roof corners. Now, this is where we kind of just create this shape. Once again, it's overlapping a little bit into this pillar, but that's the only way I've found to be able to do this. So we just do it like this, and then we can have some ceilings there in the middle. So a proper entrance into the storage shed like this. And then of course here on the corner, we can be sure to also add in the pillars to make it look a little bit nicer as well, to finish off that shed look a little bit more. But yeah, there we go. We have a little shed here on the side. We kind of want to continue this wall again. Make sure to keep flipping the walls around, just because that will look a little bit nicer. And then you can also add in a pillar right there at the end. And I personally would also add in some railings on the top, because they look very nice with these new Wasteland skins. And of course, let's not forget to add the actual windows in here too. And here on the other side, we can also start filling in this wall again, just kind of randomizing these shapes and adding in the railing on top like so. Also making sure that it ends in a pillar. Then I would suggest just changing the skins on all these so that we can kind of finish this part of the build. And technically you can just leave the shed like this, but I personally love the wasteland structures more if we make them kind of like destroyed a little bit. So you could go for a different design here on the end, using a little bit of the scaffolding like this, and then maybe just adding some quarter walls in here to kind of make it feel like maybe it fall apart someday, and then they kind of rebuild it a little bit. Also lets in a little bit of light, creates kind of a window shape, of course. So of course you're free to do or do not do that on the other side as well. I would randomize it a little bit, so I wouldn't do the exact same thing twice. So maybe we did that on the other side and we do something like this over here, just to kind of change that up a little bit. And then another thing you might want to do, the roofs actually have variations, so you can make them a little bit more broken, which actually does look quite cool. So I would go around a little bit and randomly just change a few of these to get this broken look, and yeah, just makes it a little bit nicer and fit in with these wasteland vibes. But of course, maybe you're building a crane and you're not using the wasteland theme. You can also build it out of other structures, just normal stone and wood, or maybe metal, whatever kind of look you're going for. Then we need to make a decision. We need to have a staircase up to the top of the garage. You can do that on the left side. You can do it on the right side. I would base this around where the rest of your base is. Now, obviously, I've had my entrance here on this side. makes more sense to have the stairs on this side because most of my base is that way, whereas there's nothing here. But for you, that might be different. It really doesn't influence the rest of the design. It's just a choice of whether you want the stair on the left or the right, because the rest of the design is just going to go up from this platform anyway. And as soon as you have decided, what you want to do is you want to attach a ceiling to the middle of the garage like this. That's where we will have the staircase, so that we can add in our stairs going down just like so. It will stick out a little bit, which in my opinion just adds another little bit more shape to the build. Then what we want to do here for this bit is actually we can take out the middle wall on the side where we do have the staircase, and then we can have pillars coming down from that ceiling all the way until we reach the ground, just as some proper supports. And then we want to take out our wooden scaffolding and add them in between like this. Then what we want to do on the corner, we want to make sure that these connect to each other, just like that. So that's the first corner. And we want to make sure that we build that all the way down as low as we can. These ones, we want to make sure that, again, these connect in the corner, because that makes it look more realistic. And here we want to do the same thing. Make sure that they connect in the corner so that it looks like they're actually properly supporting the structure. And then for these, we also just want to make sure that we fill them in entirely until we reach the ceiling. So just like that should be the way it is filled in. Then if you want, you can of course maybe add in additional support somewhere just to make it look like these stairs are a little bit stronger, because otherwise they're kind of floating for a long part. And we can actually improve this even more by adding in some scaffolding here to the side to really make it look like it's being supported. Now, the last layers you might not be able to do, depending on the landscape. It doesn't usually like that very much. And then, of course, we want to take out our railings, and we can add them alongside the staircase, just like this. This one you might not be able to do if you have overlapping or collisions not on, but if you do, can't hurt. Extra details are always nice. And you might even want to add some here underneath, just as extra details. Again, I really love the railing skin, so that's why I don't mind having a few more within the Wasteland theme. And once we've done that, we can actually change these skins so that we get a proper look for these structures, and especially for these pillars that will transform them to look like proper metal support beams. So you definitely want to use these skins here. Even for other builds, I would use these pillar skins at least. And there we go. We'll change all of the skins. All right, there we go. So we have an access point up to the platform. Now, you can't really snap anything to the top of the platform. So before we can start building here, we actually need to add a layer of ceilings on top of the garage so that we do get these snap points and it does become a new spot to build at. So we want to place in all of the ceilings. Of course, that means we can start adding the skins as well so that the look will stay the same, and we can add in railings around the platform so that you don't fall off. And that basically already means that you can use this platform. Of course, all the space that will be left will be easily to be used for maybe some of your storage, depending on whether you want to leave that outside or not, but also for flyer parking and stuff like that. It can be very useful. Okay, so this platform is a 5x5, and what we want to create in the middle is a 2x2. So by default, anything we would place would snap right in the middle. That's not really what we want for this. So what we will do is we'll take out some quarter walls like this. That will be one wall from now on. And then the second wall is going to be right next to it. So we want to make sure that we get this snap point, and that will be the entrance. So this means that this structure that we're about to build will be in the middle wise. Like if you look from the front, it's lined in the middle. But if you look at it from the side, you will see that it is slightly more towards the back as soon as we finish this structure. That is totally fine. That is on purpose because the structure is very front heavy. Makes sense that it is standing up a little bit more to the back. So what we want to do is add in a pillar right there on the corner and also on this corner over here. Then we can have some normal walls. Again, feel free to rotate these around just to make those skins a little bit nicer. And then these ones, we also want to have pillars. And now you can see it's a little bit centered towards the back, but that is on purpose. That is totally fine. And then we want to make sure that we fill in all of these. Here at the front, we can actually add in some doors. I personally like to flip them around just because then you get these cool skins on the outside instead of the inside, which I personally like, but that is up to you. And what I actually also really like to do here is snap in a wooden scaffolding. This only can be done, of course, if you can do these collisions, I believe. But yeah, it just makes this look a little bit more boarded up, which again is a nice thing to do. And then we can go around changing these skins of the structures all the way around the build. There we go. And then it's time to start going up for our crane. In total, this is going to be 9 high. So we have 1 right now. So we're going to add 8 more of these in total. So 8 more, and that is going to be the height. So all of these pillars, we're going to add 8 more to them so that they're 9 high in total. That will be plenty high. Of course, you could go higher if you really wanted to, but personally I found that this is a decent height, and it's also more bearable if you're actually going to be using this as your survival base, of course. These pillars, we want to all change the skins of. And then it's time for some scaffolding. We want to make sure that they meet here in the middle. And then we can kind of just keep these structures going all the way up to the top. Make sure that they keep meeting in the middle so they look like proper support. So that is what we'll do for all of these sides of the crane tower. Just want to make sure that we get these scaffoldings in just like that. And we'll do the same thing right over here as well, because I mean, this is just the best way to get this look. Personally, I would also paint all of these in the gunmetal color. Makes them a little bit more like they're actually made out of metal, which for a crane fits a little bit better in my opinion. But once again, that is up to you if you want to do that or not. But yeah, it does transform the build to a different level if you do end up painting it. Now, technically, you can add a elevator right here in the middle, lining it up with the middle of the scaffolding, which would be very convenient to get up. But for me, at least, the elevator was a little bit buggy. So it does go up, but it was a little bit buggy. So you might just want to go for a ladder instead. Okay, and to make sure that the ladder is far enough from the rest of the structures, first place down a temporary wall. Then we can start placing the ladder, and this should make sure that it's not clipped into the walls too much, because otherwise you're not able to get on down here because it's kind of like on the same layer as the walls. Now you should be able to climb it. If that is the case, that means you've done it right, and we can delete these other ones. To be honest, the ladder, you're probably not going to be using it if you use this as a base. I would always just fly up and just park your flyer there and then go into your base. That's way faster, of course, but it is always nice to have in a case of emergency. Then it's time to continue the platform up here. It's not too difficult. First of all, we want to add 1 more ceiling to each of these corners so that it is 4 wide in total. And then we want to take this out to be 5 long. So it's slightly longer than that it is wide. And then we can fill it in like so. Here we don't actually need the gap for the stairs to be this big. So we'll have 2 more ceilings right over there. We can then take out our quarter stone ceilings and then add them right next to this so that the hole is a little bit smaller. If you want, you could technically even add these. That's of course only the case if you're using a ladder. If you're using just the elevator, of course you will need at least this space for a small elevator to work. But So it's up to you whether you prefer to make it a little bit smaller. The easiest thing to keep it like this is that it's way easier to get the railings around it, of course, because we do not have quarter railings. But if you want to have the railings on this side, unfortunately, that means that we have to do this slightly different, just because the way these snap points work, it means that we have to have some quarter ceilings here. So this does add to your structure limit. But there we go. Then we can have a nice little entrance here to your room. So this will be the platform that we're working with. But here on the side, we actually want to add some triangle ceilings to it to kind of round it off a little bit. These triangles are going to be our balconies, but we might as well add them in right now, of course. Then it's time to add in some windows. Now we're going to be using the frontier skin, so we can actually just place down a wall. We want to have a 2x2 wall on the sides here. Again, make sure that you leave the room here for the balconies on the outside. And then here at the front, the windows are going to be right here, and they're going to be too high. And then we can take out the frontier textures and take the glass variant to make some nice windows so that you can still have a little bit of enjoyment of your views around from this high up. Then here on the side, the rest of the walls, again, we want to kind of like randomize the placement a little bit, just because that will look nicer. So we'll go something like this. And then over here, we actually want to make sure that we add in a little doorway, because that is the access point for the balconies on both sides. And then here in the middle, well, kind of the middle, we want to place 2 more walls. So this is going to be the shape. Then we'll add in some of our slope walls. So again, we're going to make sure to randomize the placements of those a little bit as well. And we want to make sure that this is the shape we end up with. So on the other side, we're going to be doing the same thing. Again, we want to make sure that we have a little bit of like randomization in the way we place these things, because I mean that just looks a little bit nicer with the wasteland textures, in my opinion. So we'll place them like this, and then we can have our slope walls again, and also want to play around with the placement of those a little bit, so that once we start skinning it, it will look a little bit nicer. And of course, we can add our doors. Make sure that they swing open on this hinge so that you can still access the balcony, because otherwise, if you do this, you kind of lock yourself out. So yeah, place them wisely there. Then we can also add in our pillars here on the end, and around the window. We can make sure that we align this like so. So we'll do that on this one here as well, just around the windows. And of course, the corners on this side, we also want to have the pillars. And we'll have the pillars next to these windows as well, and circling them too. Then here at the front, in the middle, we want to place down 2 normal walls. Then we're going to take out our quarter walls, add them here to the side. So basically, we'll have 1 normal wall right there in the middle. That is the one that we want to have pillars and beams around like this. This is where the actual crane is going to be connecting to. And then we want to take out our normal walls again and raise them up by a 2x2 once more. So it's going to be a little bit higher than the rest of this. And this is also where we can take out our ceilings, add them in like this. So another 2x2, and then we can connect these to the side and those to the side. So that is going to be the little rooftop here. Now, in case you don't want to waste the space, you can of course make this accessible, maybe because you want to have your tribe tower up there to make it even taller, or I don't know, you just want to park your flyers up there, just do some rooftop gardening. It's totally up to you, but yeah, at least place the ladders there so you can actually access it. And then of course, we want to make sure that we have railings around the edge of it so that we do not fall down, just like so. And just like that, there we go. So yeah, that is what we want to have. And then of course we need to fill in these sides over here. That is fairly easy. First of all, we want to place a normal stone wall right there, another one here, but of course you can flip those around to randomize the textures. We'll have some slope walls next to these on both sides like so. And you might want to raise up the pillars all the way here to the top as well, just to complete that look. Then we'll take out some greenhouse roofs and we can provide them right in here so that we have some nice big windows there as well to let in some extra light to the build. Okay, here at the back, we still have no walls at all. So first of all, we're going to place some in. Again, we can randomize the placement of those a little bit. Then here on the edge, we want to have some windows. So also those we can, of course, randomize a bit more. And then above there, we want to actually have one more layer. So we'll just fill in the walls like that. Then for the gap in the middle, we're going to do something similar as on the other side. We're going to have the quarter walls like so, creating this perfectly one wall sized hole. And that is where we'll place another wall. Again, this is what we'll surround by pillars and beams, because that is where the counterweight will connect to. Then this we want to fill in with roofs. Make sure to flip them around so we have these textures, because that looks a little bit nicer. And then we have the cabin of our crane completed, and then it is almost time to start with the crane itself. Now, one final thing that you might want to do is just go around with the beams around the bottom of the structures. I wouldn't do it where there's doors, obviously, but for the rest, yeah, you can just as well go around this to kind of finish that whole look. And yeah, then we have the crane complete, and we can change everything except the windows to the Wasteland textures. Okay, and then a few little things. Of course, we want to have railings around our balconies just to make it all a little bit safer on both sides as everything goes pink. But yeah, just want to make sure that we add these in all the way around. And then as well, we can add in the windows to these. And of course, give them the right skin. Well, before we start the counterweight here at the back, you actually have a choice. Either you can just make this as an aesthetic thing and you're not going to use it at all. Then you can just continue as is. If you want to use it as the most cool place for a greenhouse, what you want to do is actually open this up so that this little connection can be a hallway to your greenhouse. So what we'll do in that case, what we want to do in that case is want to make sure that we have a little ceiling right over here. And we want to snap in a stairs like so. So it does get a little bit cozy here on this corner. But yeah, at least you can connect the two and you can access this cool greenhouse. We'll add in some thin pillars there just for the looks. And of course, some railings around here. And then we'll make them all look nice and cool as well. This just means that you can actually access this point and you can have a really cool and unique greenhouse. Okay, then what we want to do is we want to take out the full scaffolding. We want to find this pillar and we want to go out by 3 in total like this. On the other side, we want to make sure that they're facing the same way, and we'll also go out by 3. Then we'll take out our thin pillars and we'll make sure to fill in along the bottom of these 2 newly created structures. You can also fill in the bottoms like this, except the last one, you don't really need that one. And then we can do the same here on the top. So fill in these and then have these one going across like so. Now, of course, this is not something you can walk on. If you have mods, specifically Architect Structures Remastered, there's actually glass ceilings that you can use. You can use the borderless variant, and then you can actually turn it completely invisible. But for all those that don't have it, the best option would just be to use greenhouse ceilings. This is going to be the most like there is nothing here. But yeah, the cooler look is definitely able with mods. There might be some custom cosmetics that you could use to make this less visible as well, like more clear glass. I think there's a few custom cosmetics that have some good glass structures, so take a look around in those if you want to make this properly invisible. Okay, and then we actually want to continue this with 3 more ceilings like so. We'll take out our triangle greenhouse ceilings and we'll add a little bit to the side over here. And this is the shape that we will be working with. Then we want to place in some of these walls. Again, we kind of want to randomize the placement of these because we are going to be changing these to the Wasteland skins. We're just making sure that it's built out of greenhouse, so you will still get the greenhouse effect on the inside, which makes it a very usable greenhouse in a really cool location. We're going to take out our greenhouse roofs. We'll have one over here. Then, of course, we'll go into the ceiling. We want to make sure it's flipped the right way so that we have the metal texture on the bottom. That is what we want. And then we can fill in this one over here as well. Again, for these, I would personally like this texture to be on the outside instead of the normal roof. But yeah, that will be taking a look. Of course, if you place them down, you can still flip them. So you can always do it later. But sometimes it's easier just to do it right the first time. And then, of course, we want to use the triangle roofs to fill in these in-between parts so that we get a nice ball-shaped look for this counterweight. So, yeah, we'll just go all the way around and fill in these corners. Now, this might be a little bit tricky and dangerous in survival, but, yeah, you only have to do it once. And then, of course, on top, we kind of just want to replicate the same shape. So, first off, we have this shape again. Now we want to make sure that we place this upwards so that we have the metal texture again at the top. And well, these ones we might as well just flip if we don't get the placement right. And this one will go back in like so. There we go. And then we can finish this shape by completing the ball shape with these triangle roof pieces all the way around. Just like that. So we have this little ball on the end, and of course we want to switch all these skins to be the Wasteland ones. And yeah, for the roofs I would prefer not to see these normal roof skins but the other ones. So in some cases you might have to flip the skins around to get the right results, just so it looks a little bit nicer. And of course, the smart way to do this in survival is try to get rid of one of these ceilings so you can be on the inside and just change the skins from there, so you don't have to fall to your death a bunch of times trying to build this. That will probably be a lot safer. Should have maybe mentioned that earlier. Sorry if you fell to your death. And then, of course, yeah, we just go around changing all the skins, and especially for the roofs, we want to make sure that the textures are flipped the right way around. And we just get this cool little metal ball at the end of our crane. So yeah, we'll do all the textures. There we go. So we should have this little counterweight at the end, which is also our little greenhouse. And of course, now you can decorate it as you wish. I probably would also skin these so that we don't see the other little half of the ball. For all the pillars that we've used, of course, we probably also want to change them to the Wasteland skins, just because it looks a little bit nicer. And yeah, as I said, you probably want to look for a custom cosmetic if you're not having proper mods installed, or use Architect Structures Remastered to make it more invisible. And just for a reference, this is what the Architect Structures Remastered glass ceilings can look like. They can become completely invisible. And then what a nice little extra detail is to add some signs on the top of these, just to kind of create like some kind of bordered walkway across to the other side, which makes your walk over to the greenhouse look very adventurous. And especially with these ceilings, or maybe if you found the right custom cosmetic, it can almost look like this is very, very dangerous and you will fall. But of course you won't actually fall, because there is still ceilings there, so you can still walk on them. And then probably for the scaffolding, once again, I would paint them in gunmetal to kind of blend them in with the metal structures a little bit more. Okay, here on the side, we want to add in some support. So one from the top, we're going to go in with some scaffolding like this. So we'll do that. And we'll do that for both sides. So yeah, we'll bring it up like that as some supports here as well. And then the same thing over here, just to give the whole crane a little bit more support, and it looks like it's actually being properly held up. We can then take out our railings and do the same here. In the middle, we want to place 2 railings like so. Then we'll take them in like this. We can actually go for the steep one, connect another one to it. And then especially once you change this, it is a little bit more like a curve because of the randomization of these structures. And again, it just looks like it's being held up a little bit more. Okay, and now it's time to add in the front over here. We once again want to look at one of these pillars, add in the scaffolding, and we'll go out by 10 this time. I found that to be the right kind of length. It's not too far, but far enough to look like you're actually reaching something and kind of feels like in scale with the rest of the structure. And then of course here on the other side, we want to do the same thing. Make sure that the scaffolding match each other in orientation. And we want to go out by 10 in total, just like this. Now then we can start taking out our pillars and beams actually, and go along the top of this structure. Both sides, of course, thin pillars all the way across the top like so. And then of course we want to have the connectors in between to get this proper look all the way until the last one. We don't need to add in the last one. And then at the bottom you kind of want to do the same thing. So we want to make sure that these pillars connect all the way to the end like so. Same thing here on the other side as well, making sure that we add all of these little pillars in all the way until the end. And then we can add the in-between ones, except the last one. We can add all of them in all the way back to the main structure like this. And then what we want to do is we want to add 1 normal wall and then 1 slope wall here. On the other side, it's going to be exactly the same thing. So 1 normal wall and then a slope wall like this. We want to add in a roof, flip it around. And then we want to have a ceiling here on top. And then 2 ceiling here below. I want to flip those around though. So just like this. And then another wall right over there. Then we should be able to take out our skins. And then skin, of course, this whole front part to make it look nice and metal like this. There we go. And then, of course, all these pillars that we've placed, we probably also want to update to these wasteland skins, or at least be like some kind of metal. And we want to change all of these little pillars that we've just placed down. Then we want to take out a thin pillar and do it right here, not at the end, right over here. And we'll go down by 7 in total. So just like this. You can of course leave the crane empty and just have a piece of rope, I suppose, hanging down. But if you want, you can combine it with my storage container design. So what you do then is we'll add a strip like this, so 3 long. And if we did everything right, we should be able to go out by 3 more to the side here. So like this. And we can of course fill in that shape and then do the same thing here on the other side as well, so that we get a 7 by 3 container shape, which should definitely be big enough. And basically that allows you to get a whole extra room. So basically what we want to do is make sure that we have some beams going across like this, and we'll have some beams around the edge here as well. There's many ways to make these storage containers. I've got a couple of different variations, so yeah, you can really not go wrong as long as you build something that looks like a shipping or storage container. So we'll go down by 3 pillars here, just like this. We'll do the same thing here in the middle, over there, over that corner. And yeah, basically just gives you a very unique floating room, which yeah, I don't know what it is, but especially these wasteland structures just have inspired me to build these kind of shipping containers, crane structures, and I think that all kind of works together. So yeah, we just want to connect these up with beams too, all the way around, just like this. And then just the last ones in here. Sometimes It doesn't really want to play nice, but you should be able to get the box floating like this. And then, of course, this is another layer of ceilings. And that is going to then be the actual storage container itself all the way until the end. There we go. And then probably what you want to do for at least one of these, of course, is create like a hatch frame so that you can make a ladder into the box itself. For these walls, again, we kind of want to do some randomization. So we just want to go for some random shapes that we can kind of fill in later with the other variation, just like this, so that these skins will look a little bit nicer. And we'll do that all the way around. And if you want, you can actually have maybe some of these be windows to let in a little bit of light, you know, so we can fill in these like this. We can fill in the shape like this maybe, and then perhaps go for something like that in the corner. I don't know. We're just going for some random shapes here and then filling in the gaps with the other variation. So like that. And then we'll also add in some windows here like this, and add in the actual windows, of course. There we go. And then we want to take out all large cellar doors, and we'll go for the barn doors at the end of this to create the proper container. And then I would personally always set it to only open outward so that we can have the containers like this. I don't know, you probably don't want both of them open, but you can do whatever you want. But yeah, just having this container hanging there creates a very cool and unique base look. Of course, what you want to do then is make sure that you maybe have a different container built close so that you can jump into it, or you can have a ladder or something hanging out of it, or maybe this is a part of your base you can only reach by flyers. It's really all up to you. And then, of course, we want to change the skins of most of these, and I would add in a little bit of a railing so that you can also still use the top of this. You know, make sure that you use the base space efficiently, and definitely by adding in railings, you make sure that you can safely use the top too. And just like this, it may look a little bit weak. So what you might want to do is go out by 2 more, and then have some thin pillars go down into the build again like this, just so that it looks like it's properly attached to this crane and it won't just fall down or start, you know, bobbing around in the wind. And then we also, of course, want to make sure that we actually add in a ladder here so that you can actually access the top of the build here. So yeah, that is how we get a little extra floating storage container there. And it actually kind of completes the whole build. So we have the garage, we have the storage shed at the back, access to the platform, ladder up. We have then our main crane build where you can definitely make a little base here on the inside, of course. You've got your balconies, and you've got your rooftop here as well. Now, as I said, most of this scaffolding I would paint in gunmetal, except this part at the front that I would probably paint yellow. And I would also paint the 3rd and 4th region of this metal yellow as well for a really cool look. And then for storage containers, the same thing, the region 3 and 4 for these walls. You want to paint some bright colors, that looks the best. And for the big barn doors, you just can paint all the regions in the same color, and that will look very, very nice. As you can see in the back, just makes them stand out a little bit more. So there we go. This is the base we just built. So as you can see, I painted the storage container brightly pink. Of course, you can free to pick any color you like. And then we have some decoration out on the platform. You want to make sure you keep enough space so you can still drive your battle rigs out of there. We've also painted the cabin all yellow, as I said, as well as the front of the crane. The back we just painted into the gunmetal, as well as all these scaffoldings are gunmetal, so they blend in a little bit more with the other metal structures. And yeah, so we have a little bit of interior here. So this is kind of like a hatching box and maybe some kibble making as well. Just something to put in there. And on top, we have a teleporter so you can get here easily. Although what I probably would do is build some extra boxes here so that there is an easier way to jump into this one as well. So yeah, we have a little bit of the crafting stations here to the side. You have the garage, and then back here I've decorated with my visual storage, which is a mod that I use for my storage system, but of course just having vaults or normal storage cabinets would work as well. Some of the lights from the Wasteland skins, and then we have this pipe, which is from Steampunk Decor, which is quite a cool deco mod as well. But it is a proper deco mod, it's not custom cosmetic. And then of course we can go all the way up here. I just added a few turrets to kind of defend the platform and some places to sit around. And then here on top is where the real magic happened. Here we've got a nice little seat to enjoy the view. We have water tank, which only would work if you link it up to water, because I don't think it rains here. And then we have more seating options. And then here, this is probably where I would park my flyers, to be honest. And then here on the inside, I kept it quite simple. So we have a cryo fridge with the factory premium custom cosmetic. The floor as well is made out of that factory skin. This is a generator. We've got a little table here with the Wasteland skins. Vaults, just a bed from the Western Decor mod. And then, yeah, just you know, so simple decorations. The smithy, that is really all that you need up here, I think. Most of the things I would probably keep somewhere a little bit more easily accessible. And then back here we have a little greenhouse, so yeah, you can grow some plants here, compost bin, and then a little toilet there as well to kind of give you everything you need. And yeah, it's definitely not maybe the most practical base, but it is a very unique one, and I think it does look quite cool. So hopefully you enjoyed this full step-by-step tutorial. If you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and leave your suggestions for future builds down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.